What's up, party people?
Hey.
We've got a really great guest today, Rosie Dauz. She runs Rose to the Occasion, an event planning company in Sacramento and Fresno, California. And she works with a bunch of Filipino nonprofit groups here in Sacramento. And we talk about best practices for your events and how to make them the dopest of all time, but also how to manage being a badass, because it's not easy. It's not easy in these streets. Okay, so Rosie, you are involved in so many sick organizations in town. I know your day job's with Golden One, one of the leading banking institutions of Northern California. Rosie and I went to college together. She was like I used to call her like my little, like college ate, my little
older sister
in college. We met at my freshman orientation. She was one of the orientation leaders.
Yeah.
So that's how far back I know Rosie. But ever since I knew her, she would always put on like the best events. So whether it was like school stuff, just like parties and shit, but but also
for another podcast.
For another podcast. But like also with like just like even outside in the community with like events and stuff. And now she's leveraged that into a really a burgeoning event planning business. Can you tell us a little bit about the business?
Yeah, and so I actually started that in early 2022. It stemmed from, well, as you know, I did like events all the time. I was working for a company for a couple years before I started my business, and I was always doing fundraising events with other organizations. When I was working with my sister's house, I'm doing a lot in the Filipino community. So when we were doing Philippine National Day Association events, Filipino Fiesta was another big event, and it just got me thinking during COVID, like, why not go for it myself? And I remember having a conversation with you one time. We were catching up at a bar, and you're like, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just make the jump? And I was like, I'm too scared. And then I did a Nehemiah Emerging Leadership Program here in Sacramento, and that really gave me the courage to be like, yeah, I'm a badass bitch. I can do this.
Yes, you were. You knew that though.
I knew that
you
though,
knew
but
that.
It took me that hump, and then launched Rose to the Occasion in 2022, and created a badass team of all POC, people of color, strong women to help me like create this team, create this platform of just a lot of fun event planning, of lots of weddings, majority weddings, a couple birthdays here and there, and then starting to do fundraisers for nonprofit organizations. And so that's been a lot of fun here in Sac.
So I've been doing, marketing and been in business building for, gosh, I don't want to say it, but like honestly, like if realistically, like 10 years, like
Yeah,
it's gross.
It's been a long time.
It's really gross. But I will say that the one aspect of that whole thing that I've never been as tight on is the event planning. So this is actually going to be a really great podcast for me to learn more from you about what to look for when setting up an event, like, and because there's events that are like, just for fun, but I would say 95% of them, there's like a cause. There's like a reason that we're getting together. There's a reason that we want to create and curate an experience for the attendees, right? So I would love to learn from you, like, what are like 3 or 4 things that either business owners or even potentially like people that are about to get married, just whoever is wanting to put together an event, what are 3 or 4 things that they should be looking out for?
Probably no specific order for these, but the first thing that comes to mind is, again, like you were saying, like the goal, the purpose, like the passion behind the event, right? So if, for instance, if it's a wedding and it's it's really meant to be about the two of you, right? Like, what are the real big things that are about the two of you that you want to like make known at your wedding, right? Like the wow factors is really what comes to mind. If it's for like a fundraising event, like how are you going to show your cause, your purpose, your why to like the audience, right? And that's really going to like change the dynamics of your event regardless. Like as long as you know what the passion and the cause or like the two things about you, I think is probably a good one. The second one is
well, before you go into the second one, like
yeah.
how, like what are some questions that you like to ask to kind of nail down that mission? Or
yeah, I think one of the first questions I ask is like what your vision, not necessarily what your vision is, but if you could describe your organization, your couple, your relationship in 5 words or less, what will it be? And
Ooh.
so that one's a good one because it makes people talk. It makes the couple talk. It makes the executive director or the event consultant talk about like consolidating five words or less. And then from those 5 words, we can describe it a certain way. It's easier for weddings, but for events, it's a little bit harder in terms of what 5 words do they want to.
Because it could just be like, oh yeah, we want to raise money, but
Yeah.
like, well, why?
Yeah, but why? And so like, for instance, we have a gala coming up for Asian Bar Association of Sacramento, and their primary goals that we solidified were of just trying to network. This is like one of their in-person events that they're coming back to after 3 years, right? And so they just want to make it like a big bang. Like, let's come back, let's celebrate, let's network, let's get back to the swing of things. And so really that's what our aim is for the whole time, for this whole time and planning for this upcoming event in November. And so really honing in on those 5 things, because there's a lot of things you could do for an event, but as long as you do like 5 things great, that's all the audience is really going to see. And the
broad strokes.
Yeah, the little tiny details people aren't going to notice, but it's like the impact, the memories, and then the money that they're going to notice.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with any sort of like endeavor, whether it's an event or like a marketing campaign, just like trying to nail down like a more, it's not like a niche, not necessarily what I'm thinking about, but it's just like how clear and like narrow can you make the vision for that one campaign or that one event? Because I always like to go with the saying that like if you try to do everything, you're actually doing nothing. So
Right,
is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. If you try and do everything, it's just you're going to get scatterbrained. You're going to get too into the weeds of things. And so really just trying to hit those high level goals and really focusing, being clear, concise, as you said, is going to really uplift the couple and uplift the organization on like, we really did it like with these goals. And so that's what I like to focus with them on. So.
That's awesome. So yeah, so you're going to get into number 2.
Number 2 is talking about the budget. No one ever likes talking about money.
Yeah.
No one ever likes talking about money. But really, when you're planning an event, you really have to be realistic of what you can spend versus revenue. I mean, for a wedding, it's how many gifts you're going to get, how many cards you can get, and how many dollar bills you can get with a money dance.
Yeah.
What is realistically
how long do you have to do the money dance?
Exactly.
That's funny.
And so, or with an organization or an event, it's expensive out there now, you know? And
That's
so
real.
like, when it comes to like venues, when it comes to photographers, videographers, like just taking into account like how much goes into it. Because like, for instance, for weddings, like I would say the average in Sacramento now is like $30,000 to $40,000 a wedding.
What?
Yeah, it's getting up there.
Yeah, that was not my wedding. Not at all.
I was like, I mean, there's a lot of DIY brides now because of this like $30,000 to $40,000 range that people are getting into. I mean, we can get by with $20,000, but we're gonna have to cut a lot of
Sure. But that comes down to the mission, though.
Yeah,
like, what are you
trying? It comes down
to
to the mission of like, what are the 3 big things again? Like, you want an amazing DJ with good music? Do you want really good food? Do you not care if it's like outdoor, indoor wedding? Different situations like that you have to really like think about. But I try not to have like either couples or organizations like break the bank, right, going into this, because afterwards you're going to have to deal with all of the repercussions of balling out for an open bar or balling out for an open bar also for like an organization, if you give them free drinks versus like,
unless the free drinks lead to looser
money,
wallet,
right? Yeah, looser wallets for an auction, right? For a live auction.
But I know what you mean though, because like about the budget, because I run into that a lot too, where it's like, well, how much is this gonna like cost to do this work? And I quote one of my good friends, Tiffany Fraser, who was a previous guest of this podcast, and she always likes to say like at every step, you check in with everybody about like how they feel. Like, are they feeling good at every step of the process? And just like you said, like after the event, they still have to deal with the aftermath. And that's still like, do you feel good after? Like, do you feel like any regret like doing that? And that's not a good place to be, right? Right.
Yeah. It's not at all. And so especially with couples, right? Like with all of the credit card debt that they might incur for that day, for one day.
Yeah.
I know there's like a lot of like these Netflix TV shows where it's like marriage or house, and like marriage or mortgage, I think is what the Netflix show is called. And I was like, but the wedding, the 1 day wedding of $30,000 when it could be put into a mortgage payment.
But I guess what you're trying to say though is like, no matter what the cost is, as long as it's something that you're comfortable with,
as long as
and like willing to reckon with, I guess.
And as long as they're able to save that money or get sponsors, that they should leave at the end of the day after the event super happy with it.
Let's talk about on the more corporate like event planning side of things. I'm a lot of the people that are listening now, hopefully like the tens of people that listen to my podcast.
Hundreds and thousands.
They're business owners themselves. Hopefully they'll be in a position to throw an event in their own time. But like, how do you nail down that budget? Is there, do you consult them on the front end about like, here's kind of like ranges for what it should look like, or should they come with a number?
I think it's a little bit of both. With organizations and corporations, they usually have a budget in place for either event planning or networking, whatever their focus for the event is. And I try and provide an empty budget of like different sections of what they need to include in the budget. So venue, like decorations, and then...
So you tell them like, here are all the categories.
Yeah, here are all of the categories, and then let me know how many people you intend to have, and then that'll break down the percentage of what should go into each category.
That's smart.
Yeah, and then like food is probably like the biggest thing. Food and alcohol is always like the biggest thing, and it's always the most expensive thing, right? So depending on the food and how many people, depending if it's a networking event or like a sit-down dinner, it all like goes into play for those different categories. And then like the entertainment portion is always like a hit or miss, I feel like.
Because I know especially with those with the corporate like more events, there's usually ends up being like sponsors and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you find that those sponsorships come on the front end, or do you set that budget as like a goal so that the sponsors can fill that number up? Or like, is it a chicken or the egg question? Like,
mostly I think the sponsorships come from the organizations, right? So on my end, I'm really just doing all of the logistics. If they need assistance with like research of like what companies or organizations like give back to the community or sponsor these types of events, we kind of had that add-on bonus to do that additional research for you. But typically it's a lot of the organizations that like team up or network within each other to provide those sponsorships. We essentially create templates for sponsorships, and I'm in Golden One enough as the community outreach program manager to see the sponsorship levels that the Sacramento community, as well as all the way down to like the Fresno community, like offer up. So basically it's either like as little as $500 to as much as $10,000 that people will request for sponsorships from corporations and stuff like that. And depending on like their niche, they'll totally sponsor $5,000 here, $10,000 there. It's just sometimes who you know and what their mission is, and
interesting.
They'd be able to cut you a check.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's budget. What do you have a third kind of like flag to look for?
I would say the audience. Who you want the audience to be. Whether it's, I mean, for networking, it's obviously just employees or people associated to the organization, having to think about like the number of guests that you're wanting to participate, or like sponsors or high level people. So yeah, the guest list is probably like the next biggest thing, and that goes for weddings as well. I know a lot of people that like, in general, it's so hard to cut the guest list, right? Like you always want to invite everyone, and you're like, but the max is only 50 people, but I have 75 on this. I have 75 on this list.
Yeah, it's very tied to the budget,
yeah,
right?
very tied to the budget. I think all three together, like it's the vibe that you're going for, and the purpose, and coordinating that with who you want to see that vision come to life, and then if they have deep pockets as well. So so they all come together.
Or whoever's going to help the mission.
Yeah, whoever's going to help the mission.
That's like our politically correct version of how loose are your pockets. But it's true. I mean, that's just real. It's just real. And plus what you said about the vibes. The guest list has a big to do with the vibes.
Yeah. Like you don't want the wrong people coming to your event.
Like at a wedding, you don't want no funny uncles.
No, you don't.
But also on the corporate side, like, you know, like who are those people that you want talking to each other? Even if it's not necessarily going to turn into immediate money for the cause, like who are some connections we're trying to make, right?
Yeah, a lot of connecting, a lot of like B2B, business to business, just helping people get referrals, right? And so as long as the right people are together of similar interest. You don't want someone that's just going to sit there and eat the dinner and then just listen and go
or like
home, right?
Famous for no reason. Like, what are they actually going to do here?
What's the purpose? Like, I mean, famous if they're going to
do a
social. Yeah, if they're going to highlight it on social, on their Instagram stories all night long. I mean, that's a good marketing benefit if you're having influencers there, right? I know a lot of organizations now that will like comp tickets to social media influencers as long as they publicize all of the businesses that are going to be out there during the day, and they get a comp ticket and they just enjoy the enjoy the show. And I was like, it's a great marketing piece to, if you're just going to focus on awareness, right? Then why not?
That makes a ton of sense.
But
so we got mission, we got your budget, and then the guest list. What would be the fourth priority, just to round things out?
Yeah, so then the fourth one would be the timeline that I really discuss with the team or the couple, right? Of how long you want this to go for, and realistically, like how long the event is versus how long the setup and cleanup is. Because when I'm talking to the couple or I'm talking to the team of the organization is going to have to do a lot of the setup or the prep work, and really having to think about what's going into the program. I think that enhances the vibes, right? So putting all of the three together, and then the fourth one being what are we going to actually show the audience.
I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned the team, because the timeline also kind of like dictates who you need to be involved, right? Like if this is like a 1 week turnaround event, like your squad probably needs to be bigger, or you need like some heavy hitters.
Yeah, definitely.
But it will kind of dictate who is going to be on your team. Is that right? Like,
yeah, I think that for the most part, at least who's going to be on my team, in order to prep, in order to line all of like the entertainers up, registration if there is one.
It's like a heist.
Yeah, basically.
It's like a fucking Tom Cruise.
Is very
It's like a Tom Cruise action movie.
Yes. Their timeline is very specific and like very calendar based.
Yes,
time frame. And so
Rosie and I were just talking on the way here to like, are we gonna meet at 3 or 4? You have a 6 o'clock. Maybe you should go at 4. So it's like you go straight to your 6 o'clock from this. We're both. It actually wasn't like this in college, but like
I don't think so. But now
I'm like to the minute. I'm like, where am I at?
I'm like on what is my map telling me where to go next? My ETA is.
Do you put like I know we're getting off topic here, but like do you put like little like 30-minute blocks for driving?
Yes.
Yo.
I totally do now. I mean, I was telling you earlier, I was like, I need time for my pee breaks. I need time for my waddle walk.
Rosie's pregnant as we're talking. She's not just being.
I need to account for my bathroom breaks. I mean, everyone should account for bio breaks. But
Sure.
But realistically, it's taking me a lot longer to walk from parking structure 3 all the way over here. I was like catching my breath. I was like, this never happened to me in college.
Yeah, not at 21, dude. Not at 21. At 21, I don't even think I was drinking water, dude. Like, I think I was just living off a dream. It was crazy.
Now we're on Stanley cups and 40-ounce tumblers.
Yeah, if you're watching this on video, how many ounces is that? She got a full 64-ounce Stanley, dude. Anyways, so those are 4 really good tips. I am curious about the team more so because, I mean, that's one of my favorite things about running my business is, like, putting together my team. Yeah. Like, I shout out to my team. If you're probably not listening to this. You hear me all fucking day. You don't need to listen to me in a podcast, dude. Shout out to my team. But I love, like, watching them grow, like, as individuals.
It's my favorite part.
Isn't it your favorite part? But, like, I was excited to talk to you about this because, again, ever since I knew Rosie is in college, she was president of our honor society.
You right.
Nerd. Same, but so was I.
You were also honored president, so don't call me out if you're not going to call yourself out. You came after me.
Yeah. Yeah. But like one things I always looked up to you about that was like you always like motivated all of us to like do our best without it feeling like hella stressful. But also I think part of that is because like you knew what everyone like was passionate about and like what they would be like strong in. What is that translating at all now to like Rose to the Occasion? Like, are you seeing that now in this part of our lives?
Yeah, and so specifically my team. Also, shout out to my team if they're listening to this.
They better be.
They better be listening to this to get the views. But I want to say that they were hand selected. Mm-hmm. Because all of my team, we've worked together in a different capacity. So a couple of them are from Philippine National Day Association, so from the Filipino community. One person I worked with my sister's house at events maybe 10 years ago, wow. Which is crazy, and a lot of event planning things. And so I like to say that they were hand selected, and then just watching them grow. I am the oldest one. So I
noticed that about me too. I was like, I always think I'm like a kid.
About it, yeah.
I'm like, I'm the grown person in this. That's gross.
I was like, I think I'm just the same age as everyone, but I'm a couple years older than a lot of them.
Yeah.
And just watching them grow from like, just essentially like following what I do in the beginning of the events to now. We rushed up the process a little bit because of fall season and because I'm due in October, and a lot of the team really had to step up and learn to be team leads at this point. And I think a couple months ago was one of the first weddings that I wasn't even there at anymore.
Wow.
Like they led it from start to finish. They did the timeline. They informed their small team of how to run the whole day and when people like leave for shifts and do lunches and stuff like that. And I was kind of just on their group chat, just sitting like, oh my gosh, they're really doing it. I have so much FOMO, but I know that they can do it. And so it's a great thing to see that like in the beginning, they were just kind of just following me and like little ducklings. And now they're all grown up now doing their own events. And
there's definitely like, I'm sure you've picked them out because like you saw that potential in them to
Definitely.
hopefully like take the lead at some point. But up until that point, like what are some check-in moments with them that you looked out for, like, yo, she's about to be ready, like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, were there any like checkpoints like that you saw?
Yeah, definitely. When I saw a lot of the team members being like, no, I think we could, when they started talking back to me is when I noticed, right?
The pushback.
The pushback.
It's like, at first you got to be like, excuse me.
I was like, who's the boss here? I said it goes this way.
Same.
But I was like, no. I need to take a step back. And there's more than one way to plan an event. There's more than one way to do the welcome table. There's more than one way to design something that also looks good. That's probably not what I would have done in the first place. And so when I saw the pushback, I was like, wow, they could really do this by themselves.
Yeah,
I don't need to be here then.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk back to me? Go ahead, do it yourself.
Like at first it's kind of like,
I was like, oh.
who? Excuse me. No, I feel you. I'm gonna, because this happens with one of my like leaders on my team, Marina. Shout out to Marina. If you're definitely not listening to this, I know her effect. But like every time like we're working on a new brand or something, and then she comes back with like Josh, like that's kind of trash. And then she like presents something and I'm like, yo, I would have never thought about it that way. And then the client loves it. And I'm just like, yo, I'm so glad I just like let you like fly, you know? And it's also like, how do you scale just your own ideas? Like there's going to be a limit to that. So I feel like you're saying, like letting them like try out things, but you know, even if they make mistakes along the way, at least like they're seeing what doors should stay closed and then keep trying more doors, right? Is that kind of what you're seeing? Yeah,
I see that a lot. And so, but I think they're at a point now that they're working off of each other. They're not necessarily asking me the questions anymore, but they're working amongst themselves also, not only leaning on me anymore, but leaning on the team and their expertise, if you will.
That's awesome.
I know I have one girl that's like so good at Instagram Reels. She does all of my Instagram Reels now. And we look to her to like do everything now. And so we've, throughout the year, a year and a half now, we found like we're like really good. They're really good at like certain things. And so we're just like, you do that one and you do this and you got all of your bases covered. And it's so nice to watch them grow.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because as soon as I saw like you've been doing the Rosie occasion, but then as soon as I saw that you weren't alone, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Like Rosie would never do this by herself.
I can't do it by myself. Yeah. I was like, shout out to my team again.
But it's also like, wouldn't be as fun, right?
No, it wouldn't be as fun. It'd be me doing all of the work.
Yeah. It's like that saying, like, if you want to go like faster by yourself, go by yourself. But then if you want to go farther, you got to go together. Go with the team. That's awesome. So I know you're still doing Golden One. That's your day-to-day, like bread and butter, right? And you're doing Roast to Occasion. And I also know that you're doing a ton of nonprofit work in the Filipino community and like leading some groups there. And that's its own podcast, I would say, the Filipino community, right? That's another pod. Like, yo, how? Like how, Sway? Like, how do you do this? Like, I own a business. I'm trying to like juggle like owning a business and like playing my PlayStation, and even that is tough right now. Like, how? Like, what are you like? How do you juggle all three? And then obviously like growing a family and still like being a good friend. Like, what? How, Sway?
I ask myself all the time.
How? You sleep?
Oh yeah, I sleep a lot more now.
That's good.
It's good. I was like, I get my 8 hours actually. But I feel like, I mean, since college, like I've always been like on the go, and that's just my personality and just my way of living, I guess, is always on the go. Like in college, it was like honors program and then classes, and then I was juggling 2 jobs on campus, whether it was at the president's office or like ASI. And so I think I had that mindset going into
like the real
world, and then COVID hit, right? And I was like, I had nothing to do. I'm going to drive myself crazy.
Yeah.
I was living by myself. I was all alone. I was like, I need to do this leadership program. I need to open up a business. I need to get myself to where I used to be, because I didn't think I was the same, right? Like I didn't think I was myself if I wasn't doing something. And so going into that mentality, but now being older, I think I have built boundaries now, I think. I'm really trying to schedule like my 9 to 5, and then a 5 to 9 is what I like to call it, 5 to 9, or even just shortening it and trying to plan accordingly, where I can plan out a self-care day, or making sure that I put me first also, is what I've come to realize in my 30s. And so I don't think I really understood this work-life balance until I turned 30.
But it sounds like it's not necessarily that you've pared down. It's more just that you've set like guardrails on all the stuff you've created.
Guardrails, boundaries, time frames, I think, and being like, I need to stop.
Okay.
Yeah, like
talk to me about that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where I'm messing up, where I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do music too. And I'm going to do 2 hours. And then next thing you know, it's 3.5. And then like I didn't work out. And then, you know what I mean?
Like, I'm working out. It's like on the bottom of my priority.
But you know what I mean?
Also,
But I'm like, there's all these things I want to do. Like I want to do music. I want to do my business. You know what I mean? Like X, Y, and Z. But it's like you're saying, like being very hard on yourself about.
You have to be mindful,
there's a stop.
And like there has to be a stop at a certain point. And I think what I struggle with is work, like especially because I work from home. Like I could just be on my computer from 8 a.m. to God knows when, right? And I need an alarm essentially to tell myself it's 4 p.m. It's time to either shift gears, to
take a break.
Take a break. Eat some dinner. Walk. I've been trying to walk more often now, to get some exercise. But really to reprioritize. I think every so often, every 3 months or so, I try and prioritize and be like, what's really like needed in the next 3 months? Do I need to focus on like Golden One stuff? Do I need to focus on Rose to the Occasion, the business, or is it like Filipino American history time and I need to like put more hours into it? And then really thinking if I've neglected anyone on the way, right? I'm like, I'm just going to focus on me, but I haven't focused on my partner, or I haven't spent enough family time, and really making that time for reflection and then reprioritizing. And so,
you know, what's so interesting, like listening to you, is that a lot of like, you know, these like productivity porn that's on the internet is like so interested in how to start, or like how to say yes, or how to click the green button to go, where what you're really saying is like the secret might be actually the opposite. It's like to be productive, to be excellent, to have like high standards and high quality work, you actually need to know when to say no. Now, you know, people say like you need to learn how to say no, but like actually like knowing when it's enough for today.
Yeah, like your capacity, your tank is like full, and
because there's diminishing returns after that. It sounds like is that kind of what you're seeing? Because that's what it sounds like to me. It's like, okay, I could go 4 hours, but really for this to be in balance with everything else, for this to actually get the most out of me, it's just 2.5 today. Yeah, or it could even be 20 minutes. Like something's better than nothing, but at least I know when it's time to stop, to click the red button, not the green one.
No, I that's totally what I'm saying. I think really just being mindful again of like the time frame that you're giving yourself, and then at the end of the day, like giving yourself grace. Like, of course you didn't get to X, Y, and Z, but you did A, B, and C, and you did that hella good. So you might as well call it a day and go get yourself some ice cream.
And like most people don't even get to A.
Yeah, most people don't even get to A.
Don't even try.
Yeah, you can just watch a reality TV show and you're like, I did more stuff than they did on an average day. So yeah. So be mindful, but give yourself grace at the end of the day, because I think if I at the end of the day was like, fuck, I didn't do this, and this, and now I'm going to wake up extra early in the morning and do all of these things. Like I'm just going to be super anxious and stressed out. But at the end of the day, you did the best that, as long as you know you did the best that you could, then.
Yeah. And then like Megan, who we went to college with, and she's like one of my deepest friends, darkest. She's also one of my darkest friends. One of my like best friends, she always reminds me, she's like, your best on Monday is going to look different than Tuesday. It's going to look different than Wednesday. Because like sometimes I'll call her and be like beating myself up about like, yo, this didn't happen. And she's like, but like you went hard today. And like you going hard today might feel different. It might look different. But it's like you really freaking tried.
Yeah.
And like I was talking to my other friend, Steven, about this. And I was like, that's like my biggest pet peeve with people. If it's like, you're not even trying.
Yeah.
Like I just need to know that you tried. And like, whether you succeeded or not, or whether like you got the points or not, or you know you scored that deal, whatever. As long as like you tried and like you gave a shit to try.
Yeah, like an effort. I just need to see an effort.
I just need to see effort.
I just need to see you get out of bed. Just get out of bed.
Are you what Enneagram are you?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know? Okay,
No.
you got to try that.
What is that?
It's like one of those fucking personality things.
I've taken a couple. I just don't remember.
Yeah. I have a feeling I know which one yours is, but we'll see. But it's like truly like I'm so glad you relate there, where it's like, yeah, like it's not about the result necessarily. It truly is about like, did you try? Like like you said, did you get out of bed? But even besides, like, did you put your shoes on? Yeah. I don't care if you ran a mile.
Step,
yeah. That's awesome. Well, to wrap up this conversation, it's been so great, and obviously there's going to be more stages of your career that we should check in on as we go down this road, and obviously you're going to learn more things I would love for you to share with the audience. In the meantime, like, how should people get in touch with you if they want to pick your brain, hire you for something? Just get to know Rosie. Like, what's the best way to get in touch?
The best way is Instagram, because I'm a social butterfly, always on social media. And so it'll be Rose, ROSE, the number 2, and then the occasion team.
Awesome.
And I'm the one always replying to the DMs. So slide into my DMs.
Slide. Everybody that's listening, thank you for the time. We just got kicked out. Shout out to Sac State. Shout out to the Honors Lounge.
TBT.
But yeah, everyone listen. Thanks for listening, and look out for the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.